SummerSlam 2005 ran 2 hours 52 minutes. This show went down in Washington, D.C., opening with Lillian Garcia singing the national anthem. I liked the shot of the veterans in the crowd and the American flag being held up by fans. Both Lillian and the crowd end with chants of USA. Cool. That's followed by a very effective hype package, which WWE has always been great at. It ends with Hogan and Michaels, lots of fun. I really like this era of SummerSlam sets. Try and say that 3 times fast. It just feels distinctive and sleek. SmackDown starts off the show with the United States Championship match. Chris Benoit is challenging Orlando Jordan. The actual match was only 3 moves. A punch from Jordan to Benoit, then a German suplex and a crossface. That got Orlando to tap out in just 25 seconds. Such a fast title change. This is among the reasons I never believed in Orlando Jordan. He had a great look and wasn't bad at wrestling. He just never was treated as a guy that could get the job done. It was a totally passable 2 out of 5 stars, if you can even call it match. After the encounter, we check with Eddie Guerrero in his locker room. Vicky tells Eddie that he might be done talking, but she isn't. He admits that he is out to prove he is better than Rey Mysterio. This leads to Vicky accusing him of not even caring about Dominic. I love lunatic Eddie Guerrero. Such great delivery. Jim Ross explains that the veterans we saw during Lillian singing the national anthem are from Walter Reed Medical Hospital. Good to know, JR. Up next, the notorious grudge match. Matt Hardy versus Edge with Lita. This is such a crazy story. How did Matt Hardy not become a tip-top guy after this? The whole kill or be killed Adam and Matt Hardy will not die line was such fire. Hardy was so good at painting himself to be sympathetic en route to his return to the WWE. The whole Matt Hardy internet show was very smart from him. It almost seems like it could have been the inspiration for Z True Long Island Story. Lita and Edge are the opposite from Matt. They soak in the hate like it's oxygen. Just the perfect evil pairing. I totally get Vince being on board with Edge. He is absolute money. During the entrance, the fans chant Hardy, and Edge meeting Matt outside the ring to fight. So smart. Hardy trying to choke the life out of his opponent. Again, just an intelligent way to get the idea of these guys hating one another across. Edge coming at Matt with a headbutt and fist to the face, followed by a spear from inside the ring to the outside. This match is on fire. I have no idea who produced this match, but it reminds me of a classic line I heard said about William Regal, not one wasted movement. That's how Regal wrestles, and that has been what is taking place in this match. Everything has been done in a way to forward the story. Even what is usually seen as cartoon, like the 10 punches in the corner, here is treated seriously. Not as a vehicle for the fans to count to 10, but rather a man trying to cave in the head of the man who stole his girlfriend, of 6 years no less. However, that spot leads to the match-ending scenario when Edge dumps Matt's face onto the top of the ring post. Again, it just feels natural and with purpose. The only downside is that unlike WrestleMania 13, when Bret Hart and Steve Austin were allowed to continue wrestling when Steve was bleeding buckets in the ring, and that propelled Austin to the main event with a rocket strapped to his back. This match only has a few punches and a couple of boots to the head because the referee stops the match and declares Edge the winner in 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Everything that happened was good. It was 4 out of 5 stars when it comes to what was done. But with, I'm going to say, 6 more minutes, I could see this thing getting the crowd very much on Hardy's side and being, an all-time great. The crowd was so hot for what had happened. And up next, surprising to say, the third match, the ladder match for the custody of Dominik Mysterio. Given the story, it was crazy that Edge and Matt went on second. But it is even harder to wrap my head around the concept that a child's custody ladder match is on third. With the stakes this high, it feels like this should be at least the semi-main event, only having the tip-top title go on after it. When the package concludes, I guess I see it being more understandable as the third match, since the storyline hasn't involved Dominik as much as I recalled that it did. According to the hype package, the secret was only revealed back at the Great American Bash. What amazing drama. It always felt like the Dom storyline was longer. Perhaps since I know that this feud didn't start with him, but it led to such a massive shift in Eddie's character, it felt like it had lasted longer. Maybe that's what happened. I love how serious Ray and Eddie are. I think that helps Dom sell the idea that he doesn't know what the truth is. Tad adds to the drama by saying that he knows Dom isn't Ray's biological son, but he raised him. Cole says when Rey Mysterio and Dominik bump heads like touch to acknowledge each other, that both his sons are adopted, which I think, again, it helps build to the believability of the whole thing, because Michael Cole is telling the audience that he understands the reality of having that close bond without necessarily having to be the biological father, even though we all know Ray actually is Dom's father. Cole also reminds us how Vicky tried to talk sense into Eddie. This is a good pre-match build. Guerrero shaking the hands of the social worker popped me so much. Ray cares about his son, and Eddie can't even pretend like that's the reason for all of this. The match and the crowd both start very aggressive. So many Eddie sucks chants. Guerrero is the first to bring a ladder into the ring. Mysterio springboard drop kicking Eddie off of the ladder makes young Dom very happy. Latino Heat doesn't let up. He has now introduced a second ladder into the contest. These two work so well together. Definition of good friends, better enemies when it comes to professional wrestling, for sure. Ray kicking a ladder into Eddie's face was so smooth. Once the guys get back in the ring, Eddie gets his fingers on the briefcase, but they both then take a very ugly fall. Guerrero looked to be going for a sunset flip off the ladder and lost his grip, only for both guys to thankfully not get injured. Even normally easy spots are very devastating when they happen on a ladder. Body slams, senton splashes, no matter what the move is, it's a little extra car crash-like when there's a ladder involved. When Cole says that Eddie Guerrero is 0 for 6 against Rey Mysterio, it feels unreal to me, because when I think of Eddie Guerrero, I think of a winner. More dangerous falling, and I worry Mysterio's neck may not be okay. And my goodness, Guerrero not breaking a leg was shocking. Eddie taking his sweet time to climb tells me for sure that it is time for interference. And first up is little Dominik, who is more of a pest to Eddie than an actual problem. But Guerrero does get off the ladder in order to tell Dom that he wants a hug from him. Eddie even says, "Don't you love me? You're going to learn the hard way how to be a Guerrero." That was good stuff from Eddie. Mysterio is up and hits an awesome 619 with an assist from the ladder. This crowd is wonderful tonight. I remember not liking the soap opera nature of this angle, but that doesn't mean that the match should be judged for how it got to be. As Ray has his hands on the briefcase, Eddie moves the ladder and Ray falls into a very sick power bomb. Vicky did clearly miss her cue to come out. The boys do stretch, and the fact that only they know when she was supposed to be there means that as long as it isn't noticeable, it's totally fine. That's the beauty of professional wrestling is, like my trainer said, the only people who know what's supposed to happen are you guys. Make it make sense. Vicky comes out and she stops her husband, which allows Ray to win the custody of Dominic in this great 5 out of 5 stars match that went 20 minutes, 19 seconds, but it sure didn't feel that long. After his victory, Ray celebrates with Dom and Ange, his wife. Ray gets a briefcase shot in on Eddie before the next match is up. Todd Grisham interviews Chris Jericho, who says that, like John Cena's song says, Jericho believes his time is now, and then recounts the fact that he beat Stone Cold and The Rock in the same night to become the first ever undisputed champion. Chris says John is no Rock or Stone Cold. This is followed up by a very familiar sounding tune, that being Eugene's music, and the next match is for Kurt Angle's Olympic medals when Eugene, who's accompanied by Christy Hemme, takes on Kurt Angle. Hemme feels like she is Eugene's personal cheerleader. It is both a little strange and probably the best use of her since she was never what I would call a good wrestler. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Kurt Angle has always been one of the greatest both in-ring talents and talkers of his or really any generation. Before Kurt's music even stops, he is demolishing Eugene. So much intensity, which is poetic since it's one of Angle's 3 I's, intensity, integrity, and intelligence. Nick Dinsmore is getting booed out of this building as if he is some villain in this story. Kurt gets all the love from the nation's capital. I guess that tracks since he's an American hero. Eugene is so good at taking damage. The Washington, D.C. crowd, hating Eugene and loving aggressive Angle, is so like how Toronto's crowd did not care that Hogan was a bad guy and Rock was a good guy at WrestleMania 18. This is such a mirror of Canada here. When Eugene hulks up, the hate intensifies. I find it so puzzling that the crowd pops for Eugene doing the stunner and the rock bottom, but they boo when Eugene attempts the ankle lock. Kurt quickly works out and gets Eugene in his own ankle lock. Eugene gives up via tap out. In total, the match was 4 minutes and 31 seconds, and everything that was done was fine, so it was a 3 out of 5 stars match. Kurt gets a chair, and Christy worries that Eugene is going to get hurt. She does her best Miss Elizabeth impersonation, treating Eugene like her personal macho man in some kind of way. But Angle is using the chair to recreate the gold medal ceremony, having the referee give him back his gold medal in that traditional sense. So, Kurt just being Kurt. Rhea Kanellis, Ashley Mazzaro, Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, and Candice Michelle are all shown in the back washing a limousine. The limo has the presidential seal, and in D.C., that gets big love. Then the window rolls down and McMahon says, "Why not?" He also has a bumper sticker that says McMahon for president. That was pointless. Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there, you can get hats, shirts, posters, much, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. We go from that straight into the clean and classic Undertaker entrance. Always money. The smoke, the fire, the lights, everything you know and love. Michael Cole says that this is The Undertaker's 14th SummerSlam, and while I'm sure that is accurate, the knowledge that his career has been this great for this long is just super cool. And here comes the opposite of The Undertaker, a young, brash, legend killer. I'm such a fan of this era of Orton. This is a WrestleMania rematch. Randy rolling out of the ring at the start to prevent The Undertaker from building momentum. So good, and really highlights the intelligence of young Randall Keith. When the young man gets back in, the dead man shows just how well these two work together. Both guys make each other look believable. Whether a simple slap or a basic headlock, everything just feels real and personal. If it wasn't anyone else who would have added MMA gloves and submission holds, I think it would have been easier to be not surprised by. But when an undead wizard character decides that he wants to add elements of UFC or mixed martial arts, I've always thought, that was it was a struggle. But it's The Undertaker, so I guess we all just kind of went with the flow. I feel like nearly every evolution of The Undertaker inevitably was a hit. Orton sells everything like it is killing him. The sole of The Undertaker's boot taking off Randy's head from his entire body. So impressive. Orton just does everything so naturally, and it just makes The Undertaker feel more believable when he is even capable of scaring the referee and having him back down just by looking at him. I feel like this feud could be used as like a case study on how to properly use both legends and inexperienced talent. I'm so glad Washington, D.C. is back to playing the game correctly and cheering for The Undertaker and booing Randy Orton. Speaking of the crowd, I love how just a smirk from Randy can cause the crowd to boo him massively. DC loves old school. Randy countering an attempted big boot with one beautiful dropkick leads to The Undertaker pushing Orton away to counter the RKO with just pure strength. Orton reversing a tombstone and hitting his awesome neck and back breaker combination. Everything was just so well executed. Here comes the cowboy. Cowboy Bob Orton dressed as someone else, but unlike Eric Bischoff in makeup for that Chuck and Billy commitment ceremony, this was obviously Bob from the start. The match was 17 minutes and 17 seconds. Orton hits an RKO and gets the 1-2-3 for such a spectacular 6 out of 5 stars match. Is this both Undertaker and Orton's best era? What really is either man's peak? That's my real question. King Coach and JR talk about politicians who are in the crowd before we see how the Chris Jericho-John Cena match has come to be. It all started with the draft lottery. Sleazy E calling John white trash and a thug. I didn't remember that. This was for sure some of the best times for John Cena. The crowd loves him since he hasn't yet dropped the rapper character. He isn't opening every match with a rap, but he is still carrying himself in that same fashion. I love Jericho's gear here. It just makes him feel like such a big star, which cannot be said for John, who looks like he just stepped out of the crowd. While I understand the jean shorts and the t-shirt when he's a rapper, I always wished Cena would have progressed when he dropped that from his presentation. Chris Jericho challenging John Cena for that WWE Championship. John is so much better here than I remember. I can't really think of a time when I wasn't a fan of Chris Jericho, but I can recall feeling like John was paint by numbers, but not here. In this moment, John and Chris both feel like they're wanting to prove they should have been put in the main event. Both men, like The Undertaker and Randy Orton before them, make every move seem like it is life or death, like it matters. At one point, Jericho hits John with such a stunning dropkick. Cena is certainly helping Jericho feel like what he says he is, which is absolutely undisputed. Chris and John are so wonderful together. Everything feels impactful. Cena dodging the lion salt, then working out of the walls of Jericho, leading to Chris taking a top rope leg drop. I can't believe Chris is not talked about like Edge and Orton when it comes to the folks Cena has shined with, because this match has the crowd going crazy. Such a great contest. It went 14 minutes, 49 seconds, but it just breezed by. Cena wins with his finish, and it was a great 5 out of 5 stars match. I'm so glad Eugene was the anomaly, and that so far the rest of the matches, the crowd have been cheering for the good guys and booing the bad guys. They play a package laying out how John Bradshaw Layfield got his match with Dave Batista here in Dave's hometown. I love Batista's confidence, and Layfield is so good at presenting himself as a different man from that beer-drinking henchman that he used to be as Bradshaw. JBL Bucks fall from the ceiling as JBL makes his way down the aisle. I Walk Alone plays, and the roof comes off this arena. This is a no-holds-barred world title match, JBL challenging Batista. The match begins on the stage since Batista didn't even finish his entrance before Layfield attacks. So very cool. Dave hitting John with a fire extinguisher was unexpected. Fists aplenty in the crowd. Layfield attempts a chair shot, but Dave spears John out of the crowd, and now they are fighting at ringside. I like how the whole time JBL and Batista had been fighting, the referee had the big gold belt in his hands. Nick Patrick is just a treasure. In the ring, and Bradshaw both whips and chokes Dave with a belt. After Batista works free from the choking spot, he gets to lay it in to Bradshaw with the belt all his own. After that, John gets a small flurry that is capped off with a clothesline from hell that Batista kicks out of. JBL has a new plan and goes to the outside. Brings the steel steps in to the ring. Batista is strong enough to work his way out of an attempted powerbomb onto the said steps. Dave hits a spinebuster followed by the Batista bomb, but instead of pinning JBL, Dave looks at the steps, and the crowd loves the idea. Dave hits another Batista bomb, this time on the steel steps, and gets the 1-2-3 to retain his championship in his hometown. The 9-minute and 7-second mark. It was a very good 4 out of 5 stars match that wasted no time. Up next, that special attraction, Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan. I certainly can't say this match wasted no time, but like WWE is known to do, they once again create a package for a match I care very little for, and then they hype me up big time. Whoever cuts these things together did a wonderful job retelling the narrative, using music to accentuate the importance of this legend versus icon encounter. Shawn's expression after he kicked Hogan's teeth down his throat was the best. It amuses me that both Hogan and Michaels had WrestleMania matches against Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Like always, the Heartbreak Kid looks like $1,000,000, sweet entrance gear. When he gets in the ring, Lillian Garcia looks very happy to be here. Hogan is super over in the nation's capital. I'm a real American and all that. One of the all-time great entrance themes for sure. Hulk gets possibly the world's largest American flag rolled out for him. Jim Ross says neither Shawn nor Hogan have lost at SummerSlam before, which is an interesting piece of trivia. The crowd's level of excitement is infectious. This seems like as good a time as any to talk about the recent passing of Hulk Hogan, who turns out is not immortal, but perhaps his impact on the world of wrestling will be. While I can't say I loved Hulk as a top guy, I was always more a savage guy. What I can say is it is nearly impossible for me to come up with any other wrestler who could have stood where he stood and did what he did in that 1984 to 1993 Hulk Hogan Hulk Hogan's historical relevance to wrestling in and of itself is iconic. While thinking of Hogan's rise to prominence, I struggle to think of who could have worn those yellow boots and done it better. Strong promo, massive size, immeasurable presence. I just feel like you can't teach what he had. When thinking about other wrestlers, sure, there were better technicians. I could name them all day. However, I just can't think of who had what Hogan had, that intangible quality. As far as this match goes, Michaels seems to be having fun, almost playing the role of his favorite wrestler, Ric Flair, poking Hogan in the eyes and hitting that corner and flopping when Hogan whips him into the buckle. Shawn takes everything to an extra level. Everything just is big and over the top. Hulk is doing nothing special, but that's really nothing new for him. He's just out here playing the hits because that's what the crowd wants. Washington, D.C. pops when Hogan no-sells Michaels' offense, and Shawn is clearly going wild with his selling, but I find it fun. The work on the outside of the ring is top quality stuff, with the announce table, the ring post, but my favorite spot is when Michaels has his knees on the ring apron and is raining down punches onto Hogan's cranium. Back in the ring, and fists keep flying, both in the corner and on the mat. And here it is, that very notorious Crimson Mask. Shawn attempts to make Hogan give up with a sharpshooter, but then Hulk breaks free. HBK takes out the referee while the referee is down. Michaels gets a chair. He swings and misses big time. Hogan still sells. A second ref comes out, and again we get another knockout. Michaels' top rope elbow followed by sweet chin music, but no luck. After 21 minutes and 26 long seconds, this totally fine 3 out of 5 star match concludes with Hogan hulking up and getting his big spots in. Thankfully, Michaels is able to see the light and shake hands with Hulk at the end of the match, getting Shawn back to the good side, since I'm pretty sure Hogan is gone until next Hot WrestleMania, like Simon Miller would say, where Hogan has, I think, his final match in the WWE. I would say in the end, this 2005 SummerSlam was a good 4 out of 5 stars show. And of course, it goes out on Hogan Must Pose, brother. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. Come back next week. Later.